I'm here with Russ from Grassroots YangGang. We haven't talked in a long time, and I'm super interested in chatting with Russ about sort of the state of the YangGang. And I know there was a little bit of discussion. There was a Yang kind of creator panel and talk about, well, who should have been involved and not. So we'll get into that in a minute. But first,
There's no place to hide now that he's arrived. I'm saying he ain't playing now with this campaign. Bang, dang, it's and Drew, come roll with the Yang Gang. Drew Yang Gang, that's who I hooked up with. Drew Yang Gang, that's who I hooked up with. Drew Yang Gang, that's who I hooked up. Yo, there's no place to hide now that he's arrived. I'm saying he ain't playing now with this campaign. Bang, dang, it's and Drew, come roll with the
hello, nerds.
Hello, nerds. It's good to be back.
Russ, welcome back, sir. How have you been?
I've been pretty awesome, man. Been doing a lot of painting.
Oh, that's right. You moved, right? You moved recently, moved house.
I did, yeah. We bought a house in Vermont, and it definitely has had to have paint in every room.
Was that now you were not living in Vermont years ago. Vermont's kind of a new place you've moved to, or tell me a little bit about your that move.
Well, that move happened because of the Andrew Yang campaign.
Mm,
And when we came up north to cover him in New Hampshire,
right,
my sister-in-law had a house in Vermont, which is right next door,
right.
and it was easily accessible. So we just decided to stay up here because we love this state so much. It's beautiful up here.
Where were you living before the move to Vermont?
North Carolina.
Oh man, I bet you missed the food in North Carolina though.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me right now? Oh, that's the one thing, man, that I miss so much about North Carolina is the food. I mean, Vermont's great, but
Yeah,
like, man, there's no Mexican restaurants.
yeah,
There's no even chain restaurants.
yeah. I mean, I get they got the maple syrup.
Yeah, but how much of that can you eat?
True, true. Do they have? Have you found any like barbecue places, or is that you gotta just do it yourself?
Man, there ain't no kind of barbecue places. I mean, I guess you can find it in certain restaurants, but it's not like down south, man. Southern
Yeah,
barbecue's just the best.
yeah. That's like a religious experience when you have really good barbecue. So I kind of empathize. Like when my family we moved overseas for several years and lived in Switzerland, which was beautiful. But kind of like Vermont in that you've got mountains and lakes and everything, but the food scene not super
It's
soulful.
not happening.
No.
Yeah, it's not happening, man. I
Yeah.
want that food that when you eat it, it just makes you want to slap your grandma. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean that's like a cultural thing where at least in Zurich they were like, no, food's really the purpose is just to give you calories to get work done. And but like if you go to Italy or Spain, it's more of like, no, this is a community thing, it's an expressive thing, it's a joyful thing. But no, I guess this on the Swiss side that I was on the German side of this of Switzerland, which was a little more stern.
Man, the food's got to have flavor. That's all I know.
Yeah. So what have you been up to, man? Like, tell me about life after the campaign and what you're. I thought when I was chatting with, is it Elisa? I always get the name.
Yeah,
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 when I was chatting
elation.
with Elisa, she was saying that you might run for office. Did that happen, or are you still thinking about it?
No, well, it would be the next cycle if I
Mm-hmm.
did decide to run. I just honestly, it, I don't know that I could do it. It would be, I'd bust a blood vessel in my head trying to deal with those people, and it would be so invasive. And I'm kind of a private person, so I don't know if it would ever come to pass. But I might run on a local level,
Mm-hmm.
and that seems more feasible. to me to run
Yeah.
on a local level.
And you could probably get I would argue as much if not more done for your community in a local office than showing up in some ways in DC and voting on stuff that's like kind of preordained almost.
For sure, because if there's one thing that I've seen here in Vermont is it's you either have a lot of money or you don't have any money. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of big houses and they're very expensive to heat. You're looking at $1,000 every 2 weeks to heat a house, which is crazy,
Yeah.
and it's stupid expensive. And you're seeing these big houses, right? And they're being split into multi-family unit homes when they're not originally even intended for that. But the people don't have any money here because really, you got to think about it. This is a big tourist thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's all about tourism. And since COVID, man, it's just been brutal.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, can you imagine like I was just talking with Matt Skidmore about New York. I mean, think about all the tourist business that they've lost as well. Like New York is like a place to go, and Vermont, you got all the leaf peepers, and so I totally get it. I do feel like we need representatives that are going to really think about um, people that are getting left behind. And I've always felt like you were passionate and able to speak about that in a very direct way. And so hopefully you'll think about running for something, man.
That's because I am broke. What are you talking about? I can speak from direct experience.
I didn't want to be presumptuous, but yeah, I think it's it was sad to see Yang suspend because I feel like that conversation and that focus on helping everybody, isn't quite top of mind. It wasn't top of mind, in my opinion, during the Trump campaign. It wasn't top of mind. Really, Biden was more about middle class tax cuts and stuff like that, and kind of traditional Democratic approaches. And we've lost a little bit of that voice now. Like, who's speaking up for the little guys that need resources and they don't want another program, but they just need cash so that they can put it to use, as they see fit. Who's speaking about that? Like other than Andrew?
Well, not very many people. I mean, you still have people who are every day pushing for UBI, and I don't know how much he's going to be able to move that meter
Mm-hmm.
running as mayor. I just don't see much upside. I understand he's passionate about helping people, but this started out as helping everybody in America, and now it's like you said. Now the focus is just on New York City, which is awesome. Here's what I want to happen, right?
Go for it.
Okay, because I love a good
Break it
you
down.
know a good shot in the dark, right?
Oh yeah.
Here's my shot in the dark. Okay, Andrew Yang runs for mayor in New York City, right? He's leading in the polls, right? But because of the baby, right? Ranked choice voting. Somehow Andrew Yang loses
You want him to lose.
loses the race for mayor and then runs in 2024.
Ah.
That's what I would have.
Well, there's an
Lose to ranked choice voting.
yeah, lose to win. I got you. Now there is another path, which is he wins, does a really good job in the first couple years, and then the rest of the country says, we want some of that for the whole country. And
It's not going to happen though. You know that because the thing about New York City is no matter how many people you make happy, you're going to piss the other half off.
mm-hmm. Right. So you think he'll come out less popular, like
There's no upside. There's
mm,
no upside. The only upside is you are a humanitarian and you're trying to help people. That's it. That's the only upside. There's no upside for you because no matter what you do in New York City, the rest of the country is going to look at it, and half of the people are going to be like, "Well, he sucks," and the other half are going to be like, "No, he's cool."
yeah. I mean, on in that vein, there are like 8 million Americans that live in New York City, and maybe he could be helpful for them. And
It's awesome for New York City.
yeah, I mean, he is talking about the first $1 billion basic income pilot. Like that would 500,000 people getting 5,000 a year would be pretty historic. So if you're in New York, like your city could be, led by a really innovative guy. I agree, like it doesn't help the folks in the rest of the country, but it could be an example for then other cities and other states to kind of follow that lead. You're not feeling
It could, but I don't know. I don't know how much you actually move the meter.
it. Mm.
Um, you know, as far as like universal basic income, I feel like you move the meter a lot more as president of the United States. That's what that's what I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to convince me otherwise. And it's great for Andrew and it's great for New York City, but personally, it doesn't help the rest of us.
Yeah.
So, Andrew Yang's not coming to save us. So who's the next Andrew Yang? Who's going to step up? It's just
Yeah.
like we were talking.
Who are you seeing for 2024 if you take out Andrew, assume he's not like available? Who are you excited about for 2024? Assuming
I'm
Biden
not.
doesn't want to run again.
I'm so sick of like looking at the people who are up there,
Mm.
and I'm not excited about any of them. None of them. I'm not excited about Biden. I'm not excited about Kamala. I'm not excited
Mm-hmm.
about Pete Buttigieg. I'm not excited about anybody on the Republican side. I don't care. Those people can all just go jump off of a bridge as far as I'm concerned. Because the ineptness that I see up there, it's so ridiculous that they're spending their time, they're wasting their time doing all this other crap, worried about Trump still. He's out of office, and you're
Mm-hmm.
still worried about him. And the only reason that you're worried about him is because you're trying to kick the can down the road on the stimulus thing.
Mm.
You're just sitting up there doing what you always do. And it infuriates me, and it should infuriate every American. Oh my gosh, it just makes me sick, man.
Well, the good news is whether we agree or disagree on the impeachment stuff, that's now behind us. So we can get on with the pandemic and the stimulus. Those are probably two big things that we should see some action on. I have noticed on the Republican side, there is some energy around, is it Lauren Boebert and the Marjorie Taylor Greene? What's your sense as because I think you were a former Republican or might have been sort of open to Trump kind of approaches. What's your take on the other side of the aisle? Like, what are you seeing?
The same thing that I see on the Democrat side.
Yeah.
Ineptness. That's all I see in Washington. And you know what I do now? If I tune it out
Yeah.
because I don't care anymore. Because like the one hope that we had of somebody actually affecting this country is no longer there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And until somebody actually steps up and looks at both sides and is like, you know what, both of y'all suck, and just keeps on that. Like, you know what, if somebody would step up with that line and run as a third party, they win. I'm telling you, because people are fed up in this country.
Mm. So you're not seeing like the next wave of leaders, like what, like a Nikki Haley or yeah, I guess there's not that many exciting. Rubio, not feeling. Yeah, I agree. It does feel like we're watching like just like a
Ricky Rubio.
it's like a Division 3 football team. It's just like there's no one here that can play in the league, right?
That's exactly it. It's like
Yeah.
looking at it's and you know what though? It's not just us. You're seeing it all over the world. There's
Mm-hmm.
ineptness in leadership all over because it seems like we went for so long just like accepting the way that things were.
Mhm.
that we've got a hot mess all over the world now, and it's just now what do we do? It seems like we've got to sit down, man, and we've got to rethink the way that we do everything. Everything. It's not just if COVID taught us anything, is man, we're not ready. We're
Mhm.
not ready for advancement,
Yeah. Now, this does circle back to our original discussion about maybe we can just get more done by focusing on local issues like, making sure our cities and towns have a little bit more competence and are trying new things and are trying to do things for the community. It's not going to be as as bold as a basic income for the whole country, but I don't know. I feel like I've been doing some volunteer work for my county here in California, and I feel like it's not that political, and people really are just focused on trying to like get stuff done. And when I watch like all the speeches and stuff in DC, I feel like they're all grandstanding. It's all pointing fingers, and it's just like trying to make the other side look bad kind of stuff. And I'm a little tired of that too. I mean, do you think there's an opportunity to just kind of focus on what we can change and just kind of tune out the rest?
Yes, man, but it's gotten to a point in this country where there's people are so disengaged. They're so that's why people don't get out and vote like they're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people just wanted to get rid of Trump this time, so a lot of people came out and voted. A lot of people didn't want Hillary to get it last time, so a lot of people came out and voted.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point in time, man, we got to get past this point of you know voting for the lesser of two evils. Can we just vote for somebody good? I just want to vote for somebody good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had a guy who I thought was pretty good, and he just it wasn't his time, right?
No, it was his time. That's just it. It was his time. I just think,
Well,
man,
a
things should have
bunch of
been done
people in
differently.
Iowa didn't agree with us.
He should have stayed away from Iowa. He should have stayed away from New Hampshire, and he should have focused on the state where there's actual broke people,
Mm,
right? And the broke people are in South Carolina,
yeah.
which is also an early voting state. He should have focused there in South Carolina, man, and he would have done way better because his message in South Carolina resonated
Mm-hmm.
so well.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't even get to South Carolina, man.
I agree with you. I was quite disappointed that we didn't play out our South Carolina hand because who knows? I mean, it's not like Buttigieg and Warren and Bernie were super strong in South Carolina.
Hello, nerds.
So, and I know, you know, there was talk about, well, like the writing was on the wall, yada, yada. But, like this was a long shot campaign to begin with. Why not see how we could have done in Nevada and South Carolina? Because demographically, they looked very different than Iowa and New Hampshire as well. I mean, if you're not
Mm-hmm.
working with the Iowa and New Hampshire voter, like, why not see how Nevada and South Carolina would have panned out? But I guess, we'll never know, right? What you think he would have done okay in South Carolina?
You play to win the game.
Mm.
It's all or nothing, man. Take a page from Eminem. You got one shot.
One
You got
opportunity.
one shot, man. Oh, it frustrates me so bad, man, because I just he instead of focusing on those stupid town halls and all those things,
Mm-hmm.
he should have kept doing the rallies. He should have kept. He energized so many young people, bro.
Yeah.
He had the young people, and if he would have just kept focusing, the young people would have come out and voted for him.
Maybe. I mean, for sure, had he stuck around, I think I tend to agree with you. He probably would have done better than like Klobuchar and Buttigieg in South Carolina. and that would have like raised some eyebrows, like, whoa, how come he's doing better in this state? And then had he stuck around through the pandemic, then the basic income angle would have been very clear to everybody. When you're shutting the country down, you can't expect people to pay their bills with, and then also tell them they can't work.
Wow, he looks really, really smart right now, doesn't he?
Right? Yeah. So that then I think he probably would have been lined up for a VP role and then pushed through a pilot, and then Biden might have decided one term was enough, and then he would have been in the Kamala Harris position, which is a pretty good spot to be in coming into 2024. But there you go, man. That's not the play they ran. It's easy for us to say. Who
No,
knows, right?
it's not.
So
That's
what are
right.
what are you thinking about? Like I know we traded some tweets when there was this Yang for NYC mayoral panel, and I thought it was interesting because I heard you and that hey you were out there, you kind of put your life on hold to support this campaign and these ideas, and my sense is you feel like hey, there's not an appropriate and a fair amount of like respect and inclusion for your efforts, and just want to kind of hear from you how what your take was.
I, I I don't know what happened with that. It was, it was billed as for the top YangGang creators.
Mm-hmm.
Don't bill it as for the top YangGang creators when one of the people that you include has never made a YangGang video.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? The only reason that he that and I love Roberto Blake.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I love Roberto Blake. But I feel like yes, we should have been included in that, and I don't know if it's, I don't know
Hello,
why we weren't.
nerds.
I don't know who put it together.
Yeah.
It 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 kind of stung,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, because we have gone through the channels and asked Andrew Yang to be on the channel. We've
Yeah.
gone through Conrad and asked him to be on the channel. After Andrew Yang said he would be,
Yeah.
and then we get a message from Conrad. Well, we'll circle back. So Andrew Yang kind of, I don't know if he, why he's ducking us, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the challenge is I've been trying to get him on the nerd show as well. I haven't been able to yet since the mayoral candidacy. I think part of it is that the campaign organizers who put these events together, like they may not be as plugged in to the different sort of creators out there as you and I are.
How are you going to work for the campaign and not know who your people are?
I
Come
feel you.
on, man.
Yeah, I think.
And
Well,
listen, I understand. I'm pretty sure Roberto is in New York City,
hmm
so I get it, and he is a big YouTube creator. But don't bill it as a Yang Gang creator thing, and
yeah,
not have the legitimate top four.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They probably should have just said Andrew and a bunch of creators, bunch of
I
YouTube
mean, it's
creators.
all good.
Yeah,
It's all good. I've got rooms to paint and everything else. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I think the other thing that the campaign is trying to be sensitive to is try and bring people with more with New York kind of connections. Like I think what they should have done, if it were up to me, was they should have done a panel with just Andrew and New Yorker creators or New York YangGang people. Because frankly, like me and Paget are as far from New York City geographically as you can almost get. And so I agree. Like I think there were probably other considerations, but I don't know. For what it's worth, they said show up at this time, and I was like, sure, sounds good. But I wasn't sort of the organizer.
I'm I'm pretty sure I don't fit their narrative right now. So it's I understand it, man. It's politics, dude. It's all
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you are a perfect fit for a national campaign where we need to bring the country together and bring different perspectives to the table. But maybe a lot of the Yang Gang, myself included, are not a perfect fit for a New York mayoral campaign. You know, like I think he needs to find New Yorkers that are big into creating content, and those are the folks to really double down on, so that they can be there streaming from the city, talking about really local issues in a way that I can't. And but hopefully, Russ, we do another panel, like a full national Yang Gang panel in the future, and I'll make sure that we say, hey, let's make sure we get the grassroots in there, and I'll do my part.
Well, I appreciate the love, brother. That means a lot. Thank you.
Yes. So tell me a little bit about like what are you thinking about for your channel, and what's been working, and what are you going to be kind of doing in the future?
That's it's kind of uncertain because it's hard to talk about politics when you're discussing about politics.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, how much can you say how disgusted you are with politics?
Right.
How much can you say, Nancy Pelosi, do your job? I mean, how many times can you say it? I don't know. Um, we've considered branching off into other directions because we
Mhm.
love being content creators.
Yeah.
We have started like a gaming channel for our son, and I don't know, man. It's all up in the air. We considered, you know, a remodeling channel.
Yeah.
Showing everybody how to, because once you see this house, I'll send you a video once this house is finished
Yeah.
and what it looked like before, dude.
A fixer
It is
upper.
like night and day. Listen, this is going to be a nerd haven. See, people who watch your channel, they don't really realize how much of a nerd I am. But when they see this house, they'll
Oh,
realize how much of a nerd
I
I am.
love it. I love it. What are you most excited about for the house project? Like what's the improvement that you think is going to be like the most impactful?
I don't know, man, because really we've redone it from top to bottom. We there's not much that we lack left to do in this house.
Wow.
And when we moved in here, it was a hot mess.
Mm.
We still have foundation work to do and all that stuff. So it's just a lot of work. But it's for someone who has been homeless 3 times in their life
Mm.
to actually own a home
Right.
is one of the most amazing feelings that a person could ever have,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, man. I'm so glad that you found a cool place, and it sounds like you're making it even way better. Are you doing it all yourself, or are you having folks come in and pitch in? Like how are you learning how to do all that stuff? Because I would probably be terrible trying to do anything to my
Oh
house.
no, I've done all the work myself, except for the sump pump installation. I
Mm.
had some foundation people come out and do a sump pump installation. But other than that, and some electrical work, I've done it all myself.
Damn. Have you thought about solar at all, or is that sort of for the future, or what's your take on energy production?
Any way that I can be not in the system is a
Right,
win for me.
right.
So if I don't have to pay for electric and solar, I can generate enough solar that they pay me at the end of the
Yeah,
month. I would much rather do that.
yeah, yeah. It kind of speaks to your point about the sense you have owning your own home, and then if you knew that that home were kind of not as dependent on the grid to provide for your family, that's kind of an even higher level of security and a
Yeah,
sense of
I've always been very much the I was a Boy Scout, and the Boy Scout motto is "Be
be
prepared,"
prepared. Right.
and I have taken that to heart my whole life.
Yeah.
And I'm just that type of person.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, I know we're running onto time, but are there topics that you feel, Russ, that we haven't talked about that you feel like, hey man, not enough people are thinking about X or Y, and we need to kind of unpack that a little further.
I, topics? No, I don't know. I feel like the only thing that I really want to say is, and it's probably the same thing that I say every time that we put up a video or every time I see a lot of disunity in
Mm,
this country. And that's something that we have got to get past.
yeah.
Okay. Got to get past that. We got to stop letting these rich ass people who are in power keep dividing us as a people
Mm-hmm.
and realize that we're all just one people. We're all just one people. If we could just look at each other as one race, the human race, I think an alien invasion would be probably the best thing that could happen to us.
A common enemy.
To be honest with you. Because as soon as the aliens come, everybody's going to be like, yeah, bro, come on. I got you back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, you could argue that a global pandemic or extreme weather conditions brought on by climate change, in theory those should bring us together, but in a way, like let's say that with the pandemic, I don't feel like we've come together at all. I feel like it's kind of pushed us apart.
But that's just it. But it's like Andrew was saying all throughout his campaign, right? He was saying it's really hard to focus on those kind of issues when you can't pay your bills.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, when you're worried about having to feed your child or make sure that they have diapers and worried about, you know, I saw that Dave Ramsey was talking about it, giving people extra money is not going to help them if they're already in that extreme of condition. Well, let me tell you something, bro. The best budgeters are broke people
Mm.
because they're looking at all the bills that they've got to pay, and they're figuring out how they can put off bills 3 months into the future so that they don't have to pay them, so that they can make other bills are paid, so that they can make sure that their rent is paid.
Mm-hmm.
So don't tell me that handing money to people won't help people. The problem is the way we've got the system set up. That's the problem. The problem is not poor people.
Well, that leads into a question from the audience from Vaughn, who's saying, "Hey, what can the Yang Gang do to influence the Trump community? Because if you talked about basic income to the Trump community, I think a lot of them would say, oh, that's socialism, that's communism, that's Venezuela or Cuba or something like that. How do you?"
Man, you said the same thing that we said during the campaign to get Trump people. Nah, bro, it's not socialism, man. It's capitalism that doesn't start at zero.
Mm,
That's what you say. Because when you break it down to people and when you can sit down and you say, look, this is already your money, right? I had this conversation with my mother-in-law when the stimulus was coming in.
mm-hmm.
I was like, well, you don't want that money because that's socialist money. I was picking at it, right? Because she's a MAGA. She's a MAGA, my MAGA-in-law.
Yeah.
And she was like, no, that's my money. I was like, that's exactly what we were saying through the entire campaign. This
Mm,
is your money, right? That these companies are taking from you and giving you nothing back. You are the product,
mm-hmm.
and you're getting nothing for it.
Yeah.
So shouldn't you have a piece of that pie? That makes sense to a lot of Republicans because let me tell you something. There's as many broke Republicans as there are broke Democrats.
What did the MAGA in law say when you made that argument?
What can she say? She couldn't say anything.
Yeah. So do you think she could come around, or what do you think?
Listen, oddly enough, like my father-in-law, he saw the value in Andrew Yang,
Mm-hmm.
right? He was a Trump guy, and he saw the value in Andrew Yang. My mother-in-law actually came around, and we came to an agreement before the election was really kicking off. and Andrew Yang was like her
Mm-hmm.
second choice.
Oh yeah.
So
Well, that's progress. SR makes an interesting point, and he's saying, hey, the Democratic Party doesn't really understand male sensibilities, and this was a part of MAGA's appeal, the sort of masculine, strong, bold, decisive, no apologies kind of vibe that you got a lot from the MAGA kind of rallies and things. And that doesn't live in the Democratic Party, at least not clearly. It's not a prominent part of it. Do you think there's something to that in terms of why are so many males in the MAGA community like disproportionately?
because quite frankly, there's a war on males in the Democratic Party. It
Mm.
seems like. I mean, and that just goes to like just I don't know. I don't know. It's way too complex to like really break down. It's just in the span of a few minutes,
Mm-hmm.
the different facets and the different layers because it's very complex. But I think that there were a lot of people, at least originally, that gravitated towards MAGA who considered themselves patriots of America, who saw the
Mm-hmm.
corruption that's happening in Washington, who
Mm-hmm.
saw the corruption in the media. And Donald Trump was like the first guy to really call it out, like on
Mm.
a national scale. He was like, "You're fake news. You're fake news." And guess what? We know that CNN has been caught manufacturing stories, and so have a lot of other news outlets. They just manufacture stuff. So when that becomes the case, and somebody finally comes out and says, "Hey, you guys are fake news. You just need to stop." A lot of people gravitated towards that message. A lot of people gravitated towards draining the swamp because we see the corruption in Washington. We still see the corruption in Washington. Donald Trump's out of office and ain't nothing changed. At least not yet.
Yeah, it's a little bit less like there's less drama. I mean, obviously the impeachment trial was a little bit of drama, but I feel like the Biden administration is a little more predictable and a little bit more stable. I mean, would you give that to them and or do you feel like, well, that's not what you want? You want action, you want bold moves.
I know the man, there's so much corruption in the Biden family that it's just unreal.
Mm.
But there's so much corruption in every family in Washington, just about. It's not just the Bidens.
Mhm.
That's the problem. The swamp. So guess what? Biden's still in there. Guess what? The swamp is still in there. And that's on both sides. That ain't a Republican thing. That ain't a Democrat thing. That's a corrupt ass politician thing.
Mm. I feel you. I feel I feel you, Russ. I feel like you're pretty like a lot of I bet maybe half the country with kind of bipartisan representation is really frustrated with what we're getting in DC. Um, but let me ask you another kind of hot potato because you don't seem to be afraid of talking about controversial things. So I'll throw something out there.
All
Like,
right.
and I might get into trouble for saying this, but I am the last thing from a Trump apologizer. I really found him deplorable. I found him terrible as a leader, but I do think he was speaking about the need for immigration um, action in a way that you don't hear from the Democratic Party. And look, we don't have unlimited resources in this country, and we can't provide for everybody that wants to get help from us from other places. And I'm a little bit disappointed in the Democratic Party by yes, we want to be inclusive and we want to be open-minded and we want to be respectful, but we do have to have a nation of laws and a efficient way to decide How many people can this country support, and how does that happen? And I feel like neither party really wants to touch this one because it is. I mean, other than Trump, I mean, his with the wall, right? But I feel like, well, okay, if you're not gonna just do the wall approach, there should probably be a comprehensive immigration reform approach, and that does mean we have to acknowledge we do not have the capacity to allow unlimited number of people to come into the country. We just can't do that. It would be bad for everybody. What's your take?
My take is that that's a math issue. It's not a because I dislike people issue. I
Mm-hmm.
understand. Listen, and I'm the guy that like, okay, you're a mother in Mexico, right? And you grab your baby and you run across the border to escape a horrible situation. I'm that guy that's gonna be like, you know what? Yeah, come on in. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm because I care about people. But at the same time, it does. There is a math situation and a math element to it. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have unlimited resources. So what we have to do is we have to try to, oh my gosh, man, this is what it goes. When we were talking earlier about how we have to rethink everything, we really need to just rethink everything. We have some of the smartest people in this country. There are so many smart people, but think about all the smart people all over the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we could just get all these smart people together and just figure this shit out top to bottom and just start over, you know what I'm saying? Just rethink everything.
Mm.
But it's never gonna happen, man. It's never gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at history, there has always been a case of a very small percentage of the world. I guess before the U.S., it was the colonial powers having the vast majority of the resources, and everybody else kind of being like, kind of screwed. That's no different than today. I mean, if you look at like the billions of people on the planet, and you look at income distribution and resource availability, like there are a small handful of countries that basically run the table, and I I feel like part of that is because countries like America, we've done amazing things and we've built really incredible game-changing businesses, and we have natural resources that we've been blessed with. But I do wonder, like, what happens in South America as the climate continues to evolve and force migration, and there's less water, or there's rising sea levels, or there's issues with crops, and people are literally hungry. Like, how do we sustain this? We can't, like, it doesn't feel like we can live with just a wall, but we can't have open borders either.
No, but that's just it. If we would rethink how we do everything,
Mm-hmm.
then people would have food. If we would just one of the biggest problem is we're raping our planet.
Yeah,
We're just just smashing the natural resources
I
of this
know.
planet and
Yeah.
not replenishing them. And we don't. There's other ways of doing things. Think about how much benefit if we would switch to like hemp products.
Mm-hmm.
How much benefit to the planet that would be. My gracious, dude. But guess what? The dollar's standing in the way. Making money is standing in the way.
Yeah.
And as long as that's what's standing in the way, it doesn't matter whether your grandkids have a planet because you have money.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine the cotton industry, there's all like entire chains of different players that benefit from not having a strong hemp industry. And same way, Detroit wasn't exactly rolling out the red carpet for the electric cars. I mean, now, to GM's credit, they're definitely like taking a U-turn and really going all in on it. But that is the sad thing, right? The money does drive a lot of behavior, and short-term money is probably the biggest challenge, because I think we all know long term we cannot continue to destroy natural resources and expect nothing to happen. Like, there's going to be a comeuppance from that, and we're already starting to see it. Frankly, like, these pandemics, I think, are largely part of the result of animals and humans starting to intersect more because of migration and destroying of natural resources, and it'll be probably more common for our kids than it was for us, for sure. But it does require sacrifice to change, and that's where I don't know anybody like. Would people ever vote against their own near-term interests because for the next generation? I don't know.
It's you know what? If we could evolve as a humanity and evolve the consciousness of humanity, we could get to that point where we are like, you know what? Humanity has to come first.
Mm.
It has to come first, or we won't survive. And I kind of feel like some people are getting that way. There's an awakening that's going on, and people are realizing, you know what? Hey, man, our parents, our grandparents, they screwed us. You know, look at what we're left with. And you know, my son's generation that's coming up, my children's generation, they see they see what's going on. They know that we're destroying the planet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and all we can do is keep teaching our children and evolving consciousness, and eventually we'll get to that point.
Yeah, if you think about like there's 8 billion people on this planet. If all of these 8 billion had the same lifestyle as a lot of us in developed countries do, multiple cars, big house, meat every meal, ordering stuff from Amazon, and a lot of disposable things all the time, the planet cannot handle everybody having that type of footprint on the earth. And I guess the ugly truth is that even poorer people in the US, I think, are living a higher standard of living than, probably 90% of the planet. But if the rest of the planet had that kind of consumption of resources that we do as a country, we'd be we'd be screwed. There's no way we could afford. I mean, that's what's happening in China, where you see a lot of people in China saying, "Hey, I want that. I want the two cars. I want the big house." And it's like, well, shit, but there's a billion of you. Like, how is that going to work? Like, that's just, a massive amount of pollution and carbon and consumption. But I agree with you, man. We got to do it for our kids, because I've had my son look at me a few times saying like, I'm kind of sad that I have to grow up in this world. I wish I grew up like you, Dad. In the 80s and 90s when things were a lot more kind of reasonable.
But you know what though? It seems like the 80s and 90s were reasonable. But the way that we were getting screwed in the background without actually knowing
All
it
right.
growing up, it wasn't it's now we have to deal with that.
Yeah.
Now because of our children, we have to deal with the mess that we were left with. And the
Yeah.
same thing with our parents' generation. They had to deal with the mess that they were left with. And it at some point we just have to break the cycle, because no, we can't sustain everybody having two cars. We can't sustain it. We have to think a lot more forward. And I don't know, man. It's like it's getting really, really scary because I'm like we got an Oculus for Christmas,
Mm.
right? And my son loves it. He plays on it all the time,
Mm-hmm.
right? But think about it, man. You get to escape into a world like pretty soon those alternate realities in your Oculus or whatever it is are going to be way more desirable than the screwed up world you live in now.
Mm.
Man, I see some dark mirror stuff coming.
That will be weird if, like, 100 years from now, they write books about, well, there was a time when people had regular reality, and there was a time when people went out and they went outside and they met in person, and now we're all like wearing these goggles and like with like special air filters because like the environment's all effed up, and I don't know if I like that world.
It's coming, bro. It's
Yeah.
coming. It's scary. I'm seeing, and you know what's crazy, right? Is like these kids get on these games, and some of these little kids are butt crack, right? And you know, my son's 5 years old, and they're just like saying these horrible things to him, and I'm
Mm,
trying to explain to him, you know, and they're like there's nothing that they can really do about it except maybe block them if they know how.
mm-hmm,
But like bullying on the Oculus is crazy. I mean, and
mm-hmm.
it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. You know, you think about the impact of social media on our kids now, and think about how much worse it's going to be with the technology that's coming.
Yeah. Well, that is another argument for leadership that's thinking a few steps ahead. And that's why I guess both of us were pretty excited about Andrew, because I don't know that Biden or Boebert or Taylor Green or Nikki Haley, I
Oh
don't think they're thinking
God!
about this stuff.
Look, man, look like Amy. When I hear Amy Klobuchar, I think Facebook. That's what I think. That's what I think. I think Facebook when I think of Amy Klobuchar. None of these people know how to do anything
Yeah,
with technology.
yeah.
It's crazy, man. And then you got somebody who like Andrew Yang. He's my age. Like me and him are the same age. We're
Mm-hmm.
only a couple months apart. And it's like we grew up in that time. You know, you know, we're not so old that we're out of touch.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah. Well, I
Uh,
mean, I'm in that similar demographic, and it is funny that we're considered still young relative to our leadership in D.C., which is, you look at McConnell and Biden and Pelosi, they've been there for a while, and it's probably time for some fresh perspectives. But there's always 2024, my friend.
Yeah, but that's the problem. Like, you know, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to get towards election time, and one side is going to start blaming the other, and they're going
Hmm.
to get everybody back into their little holes, and everybody's going to vote for the same people that they keep voting in time after time after time after time after time. We need ranked choice voting all over the country. It is a must. We've got to have it.
Maybe Russ, you can, and I'll work on my side over in my community. Maybe we can advocate for more of that at the local level, and then it can start kind of like marijuana legalization. It wasn't the great minds in the Trump party or the Democratic Party that brought that kind of change. That had to happen in places like Vermont and Seattle and Oregon.
Thank you, Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, Bernie. Yeah, Bernie. How do you like him as a senator? How are you feeling about him as your senator?
He's outdated too. I mean, as
Mm-hmm.
much Bernie's ideas were like 30 years ago. His ideas were good 30 years ago. Those ideas aren't good
Mm,
anymore. I mean, I understand, and you can keep crowing, and he's a fighter. I'll give him that. You
yeah.
know,
I feel like
I
he.
love Bernie Sanders as a person,
Yeah.
but
I feel like he does care and think about the little guy though, in a way that other folks in DC don't often think about the little guy.
to a degree,
Yeah.
to a degree. But like if you know, if you really cared about poor people, guess what, Bernie? You wouldn't have so many in your state. Your
Mm,
state is literally dying off because nobody wants to move here because it costs so much to live here. You're one of the few states that has a decreasing population.
mm,
Decreasing. That's crazy.
yeah. Well, Russ, hopefully we'll see you running for local office and implementing change. But I know you're busy and you have a lot of stuff going on as well. But I hope we'll also get you back in the nerd zone on a regular. And if you are watching this and you're like, man, this Russ, he speaks the truth or he's got a perspective that I appreciate, go check out Grassroots YangGang. It is a great channel. Him and Elisa are a great combination as well, and they put out amazing content. It sounds like it won't be just politics; they'll be branching out into some other areas as well. So lots
Oh
to check
yes, and
out.
we actually one thing before I get out of here, I wanted to say that's really exciting for us is we entered this thing. The guy who created Jelly Bells decided to have a treasure hunt in every state, right?
Mm-hmm.
And took part, and we didn't find the treasure in Vermont, right? But we are also entered to win the actual candy factory. If we find the treasure,
Mm.
we will win the candy factory that's in Florida for the guy who created Jelly Bellies. So we're going to record that treasure hunt, and it's going to be kicking off in 2 months, I think.
Ooh.
Y'all stay tuned for that.
How crazy would that be if you ended up winning a damn candy factory?
I would, but well, me, I ain't got enough teeth to eat candy anymore. But
Your dentist would not like that. But yeah, well, fingers crossed that would be kind of fun to watch you discover it and win that prize. And just the journey alone, I'm sure, will be full of fun commentary and observations along the way.
it'll definitely be entertaining. I appreciate it.
Well, don't forget, check out Grassroots YangGang. Russ and Elisa are awesome, and I think you guys represented a really crucial part of the YangGang story, and I cannot wait for us to continue working together to try and save this country. Because I don't know if we all don't pitch in, I don't know who's going to do it.
I don't know. I firmly believe that there will be a Yang part two.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not worried. I think Andrew, he's a smart man and he knows how valuable his leadership is. You know,
He'll be
so
back.
I think he's going to run for president again, and I
Yeah.
can't wait. I look forward to it.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to say goodbye, nerds.
Bye, nerds. Go check us
Peace.
out, Grassroots Gang Gang.
Arr. See you later, man. Bye.
All right, bro. Take care.